Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Friday edition of the TraderMerlin show. As Skilled Stocksman says, Scotch! No scotch for me, but maybe I should save that for sunset, as some of you are thinking. But I am going with Eagle Rare today. It's a nice bourbon. I'm generally a bourbon guy, but today it's bourbon. So cheers, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm going to grab a sip of this one and kick things off right. Well, I see we got everybody telling me where they're from. I got a bunch of Texas people in the house. Hello, Texas. I got Louisville. Liz, I didn't know you lived in Louisville, Kentucky. Fort Worth, Texas. Regular Texas. What else do I got on here? Fort Worth, Kansas, Louisville, Southern California. That's where I'm at. So today I'm going to do probably a shorter show. I only had one thing that was on my radar today to make trades on, and it was one that I talked about on this program the other day. I said, no, I can't trade that one. I'll show you what that is. We're going to talk about the trading week wrap up. And of course, as always, I try to have AI generate some picture. I said, show me politicians arguing in the Senate floor. And this is the picture I got. I like it. Kind of reminds me of what we have cooking on there today. Just kind of silly and dumb at the same time, but hopefully we'll get some resolution. As most of you probably know, today the Republicans said, we're done. We're not talking anymore. We're not making any progress, so we're just going to stop. And, of course, that's what caused these markets to kind of turn near the second half of the day. Things were looking fairly decent, I thought, anyway. So we will glad to be back. Moving to Houston. Pepe, we got to connect before you leave, my friend, at least once. So let me start high level and just kind of run through what happened this week, because there was a lot of economic data, and I think that's going to start to shape up more and more what goes on going forward. So, we start off on Monday with the Empire State Manufacturing Index, and I apologize, some of this is going to be trying to go back through my memory, which is a tough one, especially on a Friday. With the Empire State Manufacturing Index, remember that one was a positive number. Anything above zero for these manufacturing indexes is deemed to be positive and optimistic for the manufacturing in that area. Not that the New York area is the major manufacturing hub, but it is certainly an area where they're doing some. That number was supposed to go from positive 10 to a negative 3, and it came out at like almost negative 32. So you start off the week with some pessimism there, at least with the manufacturing numbers coming out of the Empire State. The next day, Tuesday, we had our retail sales numbers, which was expected to have a nice jump up to 0.8%. Came out at 0.4%, so not as good as everyone anticipated. And as I'm looking at a lot of the price charts of some of these retail stocks, a lot of them are on really ugly down periscope slides. I was looking at, except for Walmart, most of the other ones like Kohl's or Nordstrom's. What's another good one? Abercrombie and Fitch, American Eagle, who report next week. Those all look kind of ugly out there. So that was, more bad news, at least for the market. It wasn't quite what they were expecting. Then we had our housing starts, and the housing number I thought was actually rather positive. We had housing starts and building permits. The housing starts came out in line with expectations. Building permits was slightly lower. So all in all, economic data still looking okay, right? You had some bad news early off, but those weren't big ones. Housing is more important. And then you had the unemployment claims, which came out better than expected. So a light week, but still some important stuff from the economic announcement side. Let's go and look at some price charts here. And I will run through our top 10. Actually, let me just start off with, TGT with earnings as well. But, over the past, you could say with Target over the past few months, they really haven't done anything. Let me bring that one up for you guys. Here, TGT. So here's Target, going all the way back to April of last year. It's been 1 year of nothing. Literally 1 year of nothing. Just sideways. Really kind of boring activity there for Target. But you look at WMT, Walmart showing a very different picture, been really bullish since about the same period of time. So Walmart winning the battle against Target. But you look at some of these other ones, KSS, for example, and again, they report earnings next week. You look at this, Kohl's Stores was at $64 in 2022. Now it's at 19. That's not good. JWN, Nordstrom's, that's not good. You're up at $40 back in 2021. Now you're at 15. So a lot of this stuff, let's go Ross Stores, my personal favorite. Well, all right, at least it had some move up. Now it's drifting down over the past 3 months, but retail is really not doing that well. All right, well, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Since we do a trading week wrap up, I'm going to put these on a weekly candle and just run through and look at what the picture is saying from a weekly basis. So I'll start down here with the Russell 2000. And again, we've been stuck in this long sideways range. Not long, let me getting back to almost a year. But it has been traversing back and forth in that yellow box, a big basing, as Rob says. I think you were talking about lumber or Target. But you have just this kind of sideways chop going on to the Russell on the weekly basis today. Or this week, it looked great. We came right up to that 1800 that we talked about. You can see it, the red line there and the tail hitting it today. Your weekly high for the Russell was 1805. So coming right up to that 1800 mark we addressed and then sold off from there. Today down 0.82%, but on the week, nice gain overall. Now, Dow Jones Industrial Average, this is what people call a spinning top. So a spinning top on the weekly here for the Dow, which is generally a sign of indecision in a form of a pullback. So typically, when you have an impulse and a corrective phase and a spinning top, quite often that will move back to the upside here. How low are we in the curve with the Russell? Well, I guess it all depends on what your overall time frame is, right? If you're looking big picture, we're middle of the curve. If you're looking shorter term, we're near the bottom end, right? So it really depends on where's your first point of the curve. If you go back to these lows of 2020, we're right in the middle of it. I mean, you could even do something like this with fibs and say, where are we now? We should be right around 50%. We're just a hair. My cursor would be 50%, so just above that. So middle of the curve on the bigger picture, but that's going all the way back into 2020 on the weekly. And by the way, one of the reasons I want to do the weekly is we talk about the trading week wrap up, and I thought, you know what, Bob Dunn always emphasized looking at the weekly charts and seeing when there might be changes or even candlestick formations on the weekly. So that's what I will probably do on Fridays is we'll start off looking at the weekly. And then if you guys have questions like Rob does, we'll start to dig a little bit deeper into specific chart setups and maybe go smaller time frames. All right. We already looked at the Dow, which who cares? This is probably the most important one for the week. It's been the part that's pulled the whole thing up. When you look out there and look at Apple and Google and Amazon, and it's particularly Meta. Meta is a very interesting one, which we'll look at today. I'm actually looking at that as a potential short on Monday. But great move for the NASDAQ, and why I think this is so important is we drew out this little yellow box, which is that overhead supply zone on the daily that we mapped out, and now it's just ripped right through it. I mean, it absolutely exploded through that. It came down a little bit today. We're down 0.37%, but still closing outside of that overhead supply, which tells me, and barring some other big change, you're probably headed up to this 14,750 mark, which is quite a bit of ways in front of us. It's almost 900 points above. So it looks like there's some great opportunity and upside for the NASDAQ on the weekly because it broke through and you have nothing here to slow it down. I'll look at this on a daily in just a minute. All right, going to the S&P, which also followed NASDAQ suit, just not to the same level or level of strength, but still a great week. You see a nice big green candle there. I know some of you probably want to know the weekly percentage gains, so I will tell you that one for the S&P. We had a rally for the week of 1.46%, even though it was down 0.32 on the day. Moving up the list, and there's no particular order here, you had crude oil, which for the week had a small little green candle, but that's kind of hesitation after this really long downtrend. You had 1, 2, 3 weeks of real aggressive sell-off, followed by 2 weeks where it regained some of those losses. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet with crude oil, but on the day, down 0.08%, but on the week, a much better performance. We had a gain for the week of 2.79% for crude oil on the week. Automobile, have you read what I left you last night for a previous show? I did not. Did you leave it on YouTube or did you leave it in my email? I did go out and look at the YouTube channel. There was quite a few comments there that I need to get to. But if you want, you can just type it into here, RB. I'll see if I can answer it today, if I have the mental capacity. So this is one that I'm still nervous on. As I told you, we get a close below this 26,666 on Bitcoin. That makes me a bit nervous that we're going to see some significant downside movement on it and go down some lower demand zones. Well, for the week, unchanged, right? You had a slight gap up, which, no big deal, but it really, from Monday to Friday, really didn't do much. Really just kind of drifting sideways. We had some upside, some downside, but all in all, nothing really happened with Bitcoin for the week, which is interesting because right now the Bitcoin conference is going on in Miami, and I thought that generally has a nice spike to it, but apparently not for this week. And finally, gold. So gold down, the biggest loser for the week, which was down 1.89% on the week, and that is it for the weekly basis. Now, one thing for, I'll check that in a second. If you want to type it back in here, or I will, I'll just see if I can go out to YouTube and do that one live. Overall, this week was actually really good for me. I had a great trading week, so cheers to everybody. I hope you all had a good trading week. I've been doing a lot more put selling and just generating income streams. There were a few single individual trades. I made a couple small trades on Tesla. I bought 200 shares of Tesla, and I sold the 180 puts, 180 calls on my position to generate some premium, as I didn't think we would get there, and lo and behold, what happened today. Let's look at Tesla. I just barely got my shares taken away by 14 cents. It's fine. I bought those last week, so been a nice little run there for a couple hundred shares of Tesla, which will disappear out of my account today. Now, the other part, I had put options on XLE, XLF, XLB, XLK, QQQ, and SPY. I've been sold puts on all those expired worthless. So the great week out there. The only one that I got hit on was SLV. So I've been looking at the $22 strikes. So let's go SLV here real quick. Just telling you what my trades were for the week. So I know some of you probably are like, boring, whatever. It's okay. I sold the 22s. And unfortunately, this thing really tanked. And I actually got decent premium on it. But we had this huge sell-off last week, which was just brutal. Bringing it from over 23.50 all the way down to 21.50. So almost a 10% slide in SLV in just a week and a half. But today was nice. Kind of rallied back up. So I will be exercising those shares at $22. I believe I collected 35 cents worth of premium. So I'm in the money still. But I'll be selling calls against that come Monday morning on my SLV and generate even more income. There we go. Let's see. Before these questions all run away, here's a challenge. Look at the Dow Jones Industrial and try to find an industrial. Yeah. Look, it really cracks me up, Thomas. When I lived in Italy, or was just traveling through Italy as well, because I was kind of paid to travel around there for work. I'd be in the hotel room, and of course, I'll click on their financial news networks, and almost every station, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average today, and they would talk about the industrial average. It's like, it's 30 stocks, and you're right, name an industrial in there. 3M? Is it still in there? I don't even know. I didn't even really watch the Dow anymore. To me, if I have to put them in order of importance, in my opinion, S&P number 1, NASDAQ number 2, Russell number 3, and then the Dow is an afterthought. Hell, I'd even put the Wilshire 5000 above the Dow. I don't get it. It's just a legacy index that it's stuck in people's heads, right? If you talk to people who don't know anything about trading and investing, and you ask them, what market? They go, yeah, like the Dow Jones? The Dow Jones. Yeah, okay, sure. No, S&P is your market. Thank you very much, Joachim. I appreciate that. You made my week. And I should be drinking hot whiskey this week. My throat, for some reason, after I taught my class on Wednesday, my throat is still just absolutely jacked. So 3M, Honeywell, Boeing make up about 10% of the Dow. That's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, it's Apple and Microsoft. Okay, so that was a quick rundown of my trades for the week. All of them, it's just actually been a great week except for silver, and I didn't really get hurt on silver. I'm still positive on that one, so we'll deal with that on Monday and sell a whole new set of options on Monday as well. Boeing's the Dow, would that count as industrial? Yes, Liz. I would think so. I would classify it as an industrial. All right. So I didn't see the question from Arbileg. Send it on in there if you can, and I'll get to that. Do you think that the last year's market correction from April to October is just about all the correction we need for now in the equities? Well, it's hard for me to say, is this the amount of correction that we need? I don't know what is an appropriate level of correction. I guess there's so many factors to it that are pushing this thing down. I have arguments for being bullish, as you guys know, and I have arguments for being bearish. And at this moment in time, I would say if I to look at the list of what I'm bullish on and what I'm bearish on, the biggest unknown to me and the part that's at the top of my bearish list is the raising of interest rates. And again, I've mentioned this before. It's not like if I tell you, all right, I'm going to charge you $5 more. I'm going to charge everybody here $5 subscription. Well, I'm going to know the impact of that immediately because all of a sudden, viewership drops 90%. I go, okay, well, $5 isn't too much. But when you raise interest rates, it's not as simple as I flick a switch and I know the immediate result of that. And we've raised 5%, over 500 basis points in a year. I mean, to me, the unknown is how that's all going to impact the economy. And I think we're already starting to see a slight economic slowdown with the way that businesses are functioning, doing layoffs and things like that. So to me, that's the biggest negative piece. The positive piece is we're actually still performing rather well. You have inflation is going to be on that negative side. So as far as what's that appropriate level of pullback, I don't know. But let's take a look at the chart here and we'll answer that one, or try to answer that one. So you said last year's market correction from April to October. Let's go look at that April to October connection, or sell-off, which I'm going to, oh, you're really good. April to October, March. Well, I think you want to go here to there, right? Is that what you're looking at? Let's just do the whole move, right? The overall sell-off that happened back in January through October. You know, and is that enough? Well, that's certainly a hell of a correction. 27% is nothing to, you know, to scoff at. I'm not really worried about, is this or was this a big enough correction? I don't know. I'm not going to make that assessment. What I am going to do is I'm going to look at the current market situation and say, you know, what does this present to me? What is the current market environment saying? And while we had that 20% sell-off, you know, look at the market rally we've had since then. You know, here we are now on our most recent upswing, which went from that October to where we are today in April. You're looking at a gain. Why is it not showing me my gains? That's where. Let's go style, and we'll do price labels. Percent change. Huh. Oh, 17%. Nah, can't be. It's got it. This is backwards. Somebody tweaked my lines. There we go. So you're looking at a 20% rally off those lows in October. That's great, right? Now, is that enough rally? You could argue, right? It's a good question. Skilled, is this a big enough sell-off? Well, I would argue, is this a big enough rally? To Scott McCormick's point, we love Scott McCormick. You know, he says, zoom out and look at the big picture. And if I look at this picture, this was just a regular pullback, no big deal. And if this is in fact intact, then we should start making new highs and break above that 4,800. I personally don't feel like we'll break that anytime soon. I think there's still too many dark clouds circling over our financial markets, particularly with this whole debt ceiling part. I just wrote an article today on the debt ceiling. So let me real quickly see if I can bring this up for you. As you guys know, I am not a writer, and I actually just took components from, there we go. They actually have the article up already, so I will put this one right here. And if you guys want, obviously, I like when you look at these ones and give me feedback, but also I think it helps with my reputation over there at Bar Chart. My last article was one of the least viewed ones I've ever written. It was kind of a letdown, and I actually really enjoyed the last article I wrote, which is all about, you know, I think it said 5 keys to being a successful trader. But apparently nobody cares about that. They just want to know what stocks to pick and buy. So I said 3 ways to profit from a government default. Now, you know, at this point, that government default is such a massive factor. It's one of those things that could cause this market, I hate to say it, you know, if they did default and we got past the point where we are looking at closing parks and smaller jobs, and now Secretary Yellen has to say, okay, which bonds do we not pay? That turns into catastrophe. A small, you know, pause and we go into a shutdown, a government shutdown. It's happened so many times in the past. Big deal. We're numb to it. But if it prolonged and it gets to that point where they actually have to make cuts and say, we're not going to pay this bond or that bond, that's when the crap's going to hit the fan. And that could easily, I'm not exaggerating, I think you could see in a week 20% declines if they went in and said, hey, we're not going to pay the 10-year bonds right now, or we're not going to pay the 30-year bonds because we don't have the money. That could really be one of those like, oh my God kind of moments. So let's hope that doesn't happen. That's kind of the reason I'm being a little bit more cautious with my trades and not going for the bigger hits. I'm kind of going for a few more singles than I normally do. You know, generally I do like going the single approach, but I also really love having a couple trades on that, you know, might get me that double, triple, or home run, if you will. I don't have any of those on at this moment in time just because of the whole debt ceiling thing. I'll probably wait and be a little more risk averse. So, you know, we look at this pattern, Skilled Stocksman. It's not quite an ascending triangle on the S&P. If you look at this weekly, if you look at it on the daily, the picture changes slightly, but it looks more like an ascending triangle here. We just barely broke above it yesterday, small little down day today. So I think this is all still intact. I would anticipate a correction happening on Monday, so a little bit of a sell-off Monday and Tuesday, maybe bringing us back down to this 41.30 before we start that next leg up. But the trend is clearly up, regardless of what indicator or moving average you're using. It's trending up right now, so great. Let's just stick with that trend. Drew says, I like Bitcoin's chances to get back closer to 40,000 and going below 20. Well, you get a couple factors that could easily sway that. So if you look at what's going on with Bitcoin, first thing you have to deal with is the regulatory bull pucky that's going on, right? The government is clearly after it. They're going after digital assets, and that's difficult. You do have this Head and shoulders pattern here. But getting below 20, yeah, I don't think we'll get below 20. I do think you're probably right in that 40 is the logical target, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. You know, if you watch that video that I've made for barchart.com, if I were to look at this chart, this is kind of what I'm expecting. And unfortunately, all this stuff is kind of off to the side. So let me move these lines up here, because I really do think you're going to see just sideways chopping consolidation for a while. And typically that happens until you get, put these like this, typically that happens until you get the halving, which I saw Margaret's question about the halving, and that could be a real big factor in this. So let me explain kind of what the halving is and what's the point. And then this gray line is what I think is going to be happening with the price of Bitcoin in the near future. And my target, as you can see here, this says September of 2025. That's not when I think things will peak. I think it's November of 2025, which is right there. So my price target also, in case some of you want to shortcut this and not watch the video that I made on for barchart.com, I personally think that you'll see this thing up at 250. And I know that sounds insane to think that $250,000 would be the price target for this bad boy, but that's based off historical price action and price movement of this chart. I go logarithmic for Tom, who's probably watching. You know, this is what you typically see. You see a down move for a year and then rips up, down move and rips up. And this is basically that same 4-year cycle. So I definitely believe that we're going to see this go sideways. I don't think 40,000 is going to happen probably till next year. I think there's just too many regulatory obstacles, too many regulatory hurdles right now that are causing angst and fear with regards to Bitcoin. But I think the gray boxes here, what you're probably going to see. Maybe a little bit of a higher move up, you know, a little bit of a surge, maybe get to like 33, 35, something like that. But don't expect this to hit 100,000 this year. Still too many pressures on it. All right, G3. Hi, Merlin. So I had an old video about 401k. I think it would be great if you could update that topic. Okay. I won't do it today, GS, but I will definitely. I've got a list of things I'm doing shows on. 401k review. All right. Happy to do that. And again, for everybody out there, as you guys know, I have a lot going on. You know, this is not a job. Well, technically this is like a job, but I do it all for free. So this is not my number one priority. I'm still working on other places to generate income streams and cash flow. So if you don't hear me do that one, GS, if you let's see, don't hear it in the next couple of weeks, ask me. I will do it for you, and I can keep reminding me because sometimes I'll forget. So Margaret says, what is the purpose of the Bitcoin halving, and do other cryptos do this? Great question. That's actually a phenomenal question, Margaret. It's the question of the day. I wish I had a graphic like this where I could be like, this is the question of the day. But I don't want to make the donkey of the day, just didn't seem appropriate there. So here's the way it works. And this is why I am enamored. It's the right word. I am enamored with the architecture and structure of Bitcoin. And the main reason is it's interesting for me to look at the foresight that was put into the creation. Because if you look at something like, I don't know, this stupid Pepe coin, right? Or Shiba Inu. I'll use Shiba Inu as an example because you guys know I just rage with hate on that one. Shiba Inu, they created 1 quadrillion out of thin air. Just snap the fingers, done, created. And again, I can do that live in 7 minutes. I can create a cryptocurrency, and all of a sudden, I've got a quadrillion TraderMerlin coins. I can do that. And now you're seeing influencers in the crypto space. This guy, who I think is kind of a hack, Bitcoin boy or something, now created his Ben coin. He said he wouldn't sell it, and all of a sudden he dumped it and made a huge profit. It's terrible. Anyway, what they do is most of them just create them by scratch. What Bitcoin does is proof of work, which is where computers around the world are trying to solve a puzzle. And the puzzle has a difficulty to it. Imagine like a 1,000 piece puzzle versus a 5,000 piece puzzle versus a 10,000 piece puzzle. Let's say I have a puzzle that's 100 pieces, right? So it's a big puzzle and it's 100 pieces. And one person's there and putting that together, and that takes them about 10 minutes. But now that person brings their buddy over to help put that puzzle together. Well, that puzzle, 100 piece, which took 10 minutes, is now going to take 5 minutes because you got double the brain power. So what they do is you give them a 200 piece puzzle. You've doubled the number of pieces because you're doubling the people. So what Bitcoin does is as more miners come into the field with their computers and try to mine Bitcoin, they will increase the difficulty. Now, why is this important? Because if I'm a miner, I am rewarded with Bitcoin for my efforts to maintain the network. And if you're a miner, if anybody here who mines Bitcoin, what you're doing is you are now taking a computer or a specialized mining device, and you download a piece of software, and now you are validating transactions that come in from all over the world. And you don't care where they're coming from, just here comes a transaction, and you look at this piece of code and you say, okay, is this a valid Bitcoin address that it's coming from? Check, yes. Does this have the private key? Have they signed this transaction? Yep, that's good. Is the crypto in there that they want to send? Yep, that's good. Then done, send it. So you're basically becoming the police force of Bitcoin by being a miner. Now, why do they release on a predicted schedule? What's this halving thing? Bitcoin initially started in 2009 with 50 Bitcoin for every block that was mined. And in the minds of Satoshi Nakamoto, who created Bitcoin, he wanted the blocks to be about every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, all the transactions are batched together, locked up, put into a block, and then the next one starts. And then the next one starts. And it keeps going and going and going and going. And the key for Bitcoin is 10-minute blocks. Now, sometimes you get a 10.5 minute or sometimes a 9.5 minute, but over time, it'll average to 10 minutes because the difficulty of the puzzle keeps changing. It started with 50. And the brilliance of Bitcoin is every 210,000 blocks, the reward gets cut in half. So in 2009, it was 50 Bitcoin. Imagine if you earned 50 Bitcoin. 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. I mean, now because of the price, it's like, oh my God, that's an unbelievable amount of money. But back then in October of 2009, the price of a Bitcoin was 0.00099. So 50 Bitcoins was like nothing, a couple cents, but it was just starting out. So what Satoshi's brilliance is, I may have the graphic for you. Let's see if I can bring this up real quick. Since you put me on the spot here, what did I do with that one? I don't remember where I put it. Dab nabbit. Yeah, I don't have the graphic in front of me right now. I've got too many things going on. I can't remember where I put it, but he basically said 50 Bitcoin every block. That went on for almost 4 years. And every 210,000 blocks, so every 210,000 10-minute chunks, it gets cut in half. So it went from 50 to 25 to 12.5, and now it's 6.25. So right now, there are 6.25 Bitcoin rewarded to every miner who solves a block every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, 6.25 Bitcoin are created. In April of next year, late April, early May, we will have 3.125 Bitcoin. It gets cut in half again. And why is that important, Margaret? That was your question. It's important because what we had in the first 4 years of Bitcoin was 50% of all of the Bitcoin ever created were now emitted. And over time, it's going to be fewer and fewer Bitcoin are in circulation, less and less and less and less. So here's a graphic I created for my crypto students. Let me just show you this one. So you guys can see here, the first date, this is when Bitcoin was created, January 3rd, 2009. And you see here it says block, 210,000. Well, the reward is 50 Bitcoin. So in this first 4 years, 10.5 million Bitcoin were created. And then it gets cut in half. So all of a sudden, the next halving, so every time it switches, every line here is called a halving. So I'll just write here, halving. Right, and we'll just carry that down. So every time you have a halving, things get cut in half. So you can see that half the Bitcoin right here were created in the first 4 years. And now 25% more. And now 12. So it keeps dropping and finally we get to 2140 is when the last official Bitcoin will be mined. So 2140 is when the last one will be mined. And why is that important? It's important because we know exactly how many Bitcoin are in circulation. We know exactly how they will be created. And over time, the brilliance was, at the beginning, nobody was using it. You reward the miners with a bunch. As time goes on, if Bitcoin becomes adopted and starts to be utilized more, as it's starting to, then you don't need to reward the miners with 50 Bitcoin. Let's cut that reward in half and keep lowering it with the expectation that over time it's going to get more popular and the miners don't need that much reward, right? Because in the beginning, you got 50 Bitcoin that was worth less than a penny. You made a couple cents. But what if Bitcoin gets to the price of $1 million? Do you need 6.25 Bitcoin as a reward? $1 million bucks, give me 1/10 of a Bitcoin. 0.1 Bitcoin, I make 100 grand. That's still good reward plus all the fees associated with it. So that's the gist of halving. I kind of hope that helps. I didn't have anything prepared for you, Margaret. One of the things I love about you guys throwing questions to me live on air is I don't have time to prep. Right, I just got to go with it. Some always end up talking about crypto. Well, it's just because Margaret. You guys can blame Margaret today. KF says, by that influencer who dumped his shares, you mean BitBoy Crypto? Yes, I do. That's the guy. Would it be logical rationale to make Bitcoin an unregulated global currency? So, JR, brilliant question. It's second to Margaret's. For you and me as consumers, for every one of us that's watching this right now, unless I pissed off Gary Gensler and he's watching right now, which probably not. For all of us, yes, it makes logical sense for Bitcoin to be an unregulated global currency. There's no reason that you and I should be forced to say you have to use this currency or else we're going to take you to jail, right? It should be our choice as consumers. Now, if I'm a government official or part of the government, then absolutely not. No way I want to see this as an unregulated security, because now I'm allowing you to move away from the control I have. If I'm the U.S. government and the Treasury, you are under my control with the dollar. I can influence you in ways you cannot believe. I can devalue the dollar instantly. I can print more money. I can manipulate money supply like nobody's business. With Bitcoin, you can't. It's a purely predicted model. You can't create more at any moment in time. It is a predetermined amount. So yes, it would be great if we could get Bitcoin to the point where it is now an unregulated global currency. And I think it's going to start to go there. I think that it's not us that's going to empower this. I think it's going to be other countries around the world, third world countries that go, we need a banking system. Okay, we'll use Bitcoin. And that'll start to bring the popularity of Bitcoin up. Thanks to people like El Salvador for making it legal tender. And there's others as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's like 2 other countries that have officially made it legal tender. And I think that number is going to grow. Let's see, Pepe. Is it true that they created a backdoor regarding Nano Ledger, or is this just another Nano Ledger? So, Zed, we talked about that the other day. The true answer would be this: is there, if it's digital, there most likely is already a backdoor in there. If you're a good enough hacker, good enough programmer, you can probably find a way in. So the mistake that the Ledger developers and PR team made is they tweeted out stupidly, quote unquote, there has always been a way to get the seed phrase off of a ledger. And that you just have to like rub your temples and go, are you kidding me? I'd fire you instantly. If I was Ledger, whoever's doing my Twitter PR, fired. I'd be Donald Trump. You're fired, right? Gone. You now created so much firestorm for Ledger. Am I concerned? Yes. Am I paranoid and freaking out and like, oh my God, I got to dump all my crypto off my ledger? No, I don't think it's that big a deal. But it is something to be concerned about, that there is the potential for a backdoor entry into these devices. So I don't really have too much to say on that, other than I'm researching potential other hardware wallets to go to, or just go to paper wallets for my major holdings. If Bitcoin is regulated, would it be like gold? No, it'll never be like gold, Dave, because gold is physical, right? I can hold gold. I can keep it in my hand. Nobody here can hold. I can't hold this device and say I'm holding Bitcoin. No, I'm holding a device that allows me to access my Bitcoin. It knows where my Bitcoin is on the blockchain, but your Bitcoin doesn't really reside anywhere. I'm not sure, Liz, if Liechtenstein. Honestly, it'd be really good in their best interest to do it. Let's see what else we got. Have you heard about order block strategy? I don't know if I know that one. Don't know that one. Let me scroll back here. I know I got a bunch of other questions I have not gone to. I have a screenshot of a Bitcoin history projection in TradingView that has the same October 2025 peak, but has 160. Yeah. So in the video that I made, which I already posted in chat, I don't know if you guys have watched that one or care to watch that one, but I'm going to put it in there again because it's selfless promotion. But let me go to bar chart. I'll put it in the chat real quick here, just so you guys can see that one. I'm really surprised at how few views this thing has gotten. It's only my show gets more views than this video I made, and I really think that the video, it's obviously biased. I am biased because I am a fan of Bitcoin, but you're really just shocked. And this is the last slide that I think you're referencing. Unfortunately, it's hard to put it on the scale here, but if I do the 4-year cycle, and this is kind of that picture that I was looking at, You had that first year was 77%, and for the last 3 times it's done this, it's fallen 33 to 85%, or sorry, 77 to 85%. It goes sideways for a year and a half. Then the halving happens, and shortly after the halving, it rips up. Now, based off a 1,000% gain, that puts us at 176,000. If you go to 2,000%, which was the previous jump up was over 2,000% in the last year and a half, that would put it at 326. I think you'll be somewhere in the middle here. So that's the basis for my thought. Is there any good crypto analysts that you listen to, just like there is auto industry analysts? It's funny. There's a couple that I used to listen to, but they've changed dramatically. So one of my favorites was a guy named Ivan on Tech. Ivan on Tech is one of the brilliant minds out there. He was, and now all of a sudden he's pumping Hex and Pulse Chain, which are Hex is a scam. Hex is a multi-level scam. Bring more people in, you make more money type of thing. And ever since he did that, I just kind of backed away from him. But there's a few out there. I would probably say my favorite it's called Coin Bureau. Coin Bureau is probably my favorite. The guy's really good at what he does. But let's see, KF. By no means I mean disrespect. I am genuinely curious if Sam Seiden was the first person who started teaching supply and demand at OTA. Is it true? No, that is an outright lie. That is a flat, outright LIE. He's a liar. He did not create supply and demand. Supply and demand, first off, goes back to the days of the caveman. Number two, when we were teaching this class back in the late 90s, long before Sam ever got there, we were talking about supply and demand. We're talking about supply and demand, talking about support and resistance. What he did is put it more in a structured wrapper, but to say you created it is a lie. I wish someone would take him to court on that one. That's an absolute lie. Nice. Can you try to go back to last night's video and copy the sentence I wrote just? Oh, I can't do that live, man. I got too many things to try to do that live. Let me see. I got more and more stuff here. I got Liechtenstein. Just Googled it. It said yes, they will accept Bitcoin for payment in certain. Nice, awesome for certain services, right? Not universal legal tender. What else? What do I got here? Breedlove and Saylor. So the problem I have, Drew, with Robert Breedlove and Michael Saylor is they are evangelical. They are so nothing else matters. No Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, trash garbage. They're Bitcoin maxis. And I lose a little bit of respect for people who are just a Bitcoin maxi, which means it's Bitcoin and everything else is garbage. I disagree. I think Bitcoin has its strengths and its merits and is awesome. I also think there's some other projects that do things that Bitcoin doesn't do, and that's technological advancement. So, look at things like Ethereum. I'm a huge fan of Ethereum, and I think that Ethereum will probably be the biggest one down the road because it can reach more people. Bitcoin will predominantly be monetary, and now we have systems in place where Bitcoin can now do ERC or BEC 20 contracts and NFTs and things like that. But I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I love Bitcoin, but there's plenty others. Why 2 shirts? I don't know. It's funny because upstairs in my house, it's really warm. Downstairs, it's kind of cool. I like it that way. And I had my 2 shirts on downstairs and I ran up here and here we go. Okay, let me run back to my slides here and see what else is. How far are we long? Holy cow, 39 minutes already. If you got other questions, type them in the chat. I would be happy to go through that. Last night I wrote my thought about Bitcoin regulations. It's kind of so long I can't write it again. Well, just go to my YouTube channel and copy it and resend it to me. All right. So, what else do you guys got for me? Where are you at on your book? Oh, man. Ever since I started writing articles for barchart.com, I have not been able to work on my book. I've been so focused on that. So here's RB. Since RB's lazy and won't go and copy his comment from my YouTube channel, I'll do it live on the show. God, RB. Come on, man. Help a brother out. I can only do so much, man. Here is RB's comment. Yes, Luis. Oh, it's actually too long. Great. Let me Control X. There's the first part of it, and here's the second part. There you go, RB. I did it for you. He says, imagine if Bitcoin became powerful. Then there wouldn't be any currency needed. There wouldn't be any kind of USD. What measures would you take in that scenario if you were the power holder? You mean if I was a government? RB, this is an awesome question because you are explaining the government dilemma right now. If I'm the U.S. government, put me in the president, I'm President Biden, and I go to my congressional members, I go to the Senate, House of Representatives, I'm like, hey, listen, let's talk about this. And people are going to go, hey, Bitcoin looks like it's rising as cash, as digital cash. And we can't have that, because if people use the Bitcoin, they're not going to be as inclined to use the dollar. And we have them as captive prisoners. It sounds awful, but really, if you're using a fiat currency, you are a captive prisoner of the government issuing that currency. You're in the euro, the pound, Australian dollar. It sounds like it's nice because it's simple for you to transact and things are priced in that currency. But if that's all you can use, then you are subject to their manipulation. And if we looked at the numbers on Wednesday's show, where we said we have $313 billion came in to the U.S. government in income for the month of March, yet $691 billion went out. That's manipulation right there, right? It's a misuse of funds. And why? Because they control it. So what would we be doing? If I was the government, I would be attacking Bitcoin. I would be slowing it down. I would be pushing out the monetary aspect. I'm okay with blockchain. And again, I want to make sure that anybody just joining right now, you understand, I'm saying this as a government official. I'm saying this as a president because I know this threatens the stability and safety of the US dollar. So if I'm the president, I'm attacking Bitcoin in particular. I'm attacking crypto projects because I don't want there to be the utilization of them as payment rails. So Bitcoin predominantly uses payment rails. I have to fight that. I have to get rid of that one. If you look at something like Ethereum is just a decentralized computer I can now build things on top of. Now, there's other threats there, like, for example, I could have decentralized exchanges, DeFi marketplaces, and that is also a threat. But I can't have something supplant the US dollar if I'm the government. So I will fight that tooth and nail, and that's what we're seeing right now. Now, the good news is there are some politicians, Cruz, for example, he's pro-Bitcoin. He says it's digital money, and he's all for it. Those are the kind of people that, in my mind, I want to support. Now, he's got a lot of other wonky views I don't agree with, but when it comes to Bitcoin, he and I are on the same page that no one should be telling me that I have to use the dollar. Why can't I use something else? Again, if I want to pay ramen here or Arby in Bitcoin and they accept it as business owners, awesome, great. So that's the big challenge, is what is the government going to do? And again, that's part of the reason why I believe you're going to see Bitcoin struggle for the next year until we get to the election. And I think that there are a lot of people like me, middle-aged men who really see the potential for this, have issues with my government, and I'm going to vote for pro-crypto officials. That's one of the big platforms I'm looking for, is pro-crypto, pro-digital assets. Let's keep America a powerhouse of innovation and technology by keeping all those jobs here, and we'll dominate that landscape. So it's a win-win for all of us, except government, which may lose out if it turns into a different currency. By any chance, have you taken a look at Wall Street's cheat sheet on the shape of the S&P 500? No. I'll be honest, I barely look at anybody else's content, anybody else's information. I don't look at it, typically. A something men podcast, Silicon Valley heavyweight opinion like Klamath, government, and G7 working towards undermining crypto industry, which is challenging. Yeah, exactly. And Raman, I was mentioning, U.S. government, but the IMF is doing this. The ECB is doing this. They're going after it. The BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, although the Bank of International Settlements also recently set something up where banks will be allowed to hold in up to 2025 a certain percentage of their portfolio in crypto. That was kind of shocking when I read that announcement. I kind of feel like they will backpedal and move away from that. So there you go, RB. I answered that question for you, and that deserves one more sip of whiskey. The cube is getting very small, folks. You know the rule is if the cube's gone, then show's over. Yes, a crypto-friendly nation. We should be a leader in the crypto industry. Yeah, and it's not to say that I want crypto to be popular to say screw my government. I think we'd all agree there are things we need the government for. I think they're a little bit too controlling in many aspects of our life, but I do think that there is an importance to keep the guardrails on society to some extent. I know I'm going to piss off some libertarians right now. I apologize for that, but I do think that there's a need to have some guidelines so we don't get radical. But let me choose what I want to trade with. President Merlin 20, yeah, right. No way. I think he should run for VP first. Trump doesn't have... No. One thing, I've always shied away from politics because I don't want to alienate anybody. But, if I'm going to align myself with somebody, it's got to be somebody that... It needs to be a person that I'd be like, this is a person I would sit down and have a beer with and I would consider a friend. Trump, would absolutely not, in any way, shape, or form, be considered a friend. Is he an aggressive politician? Does he get stuff done? Sure, you could argue that, but there's a lot of negative things about that guy, just like there's a lot of negative stuff about President Biden, which is why I don't talk politics. So, by the way, Tom, I can't be president because I was born in Munich, Germany, so I can't do it, nor do I want to. I think that'd be a horrible job. Although, you go through these moments sometimes, I think you all do. You're like, I know I could do a better job than some of these people out there. I know I'm not the type of politician that would sit there and point like a little angry child. Well, I'm not going to pass the debt ceiling limit until you give me this and this and this. They're all like a bunch of babies out there. It's crazy. What about DeSantis? Does he like crypto? No, I don't think he does. I do respect him for some of the things he's doing. Like he just passed a law that says you cannot use a CBDC in Florida. Yet, let's be honest. Is he stupid? Yes, because federal supersedes state. So if the federal government says we are using a CBDC and you have to use it, Florida has to use it unless they cede from the union and become their own state. And I'm pretty sure Florida wouldn't make it if they jumped out of their own state. Yes, I did see the Elon Musk interview. Loved it. I have one of my really good friends. He hates Elon Musk because he's crazy, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I love him because he has FU money. For those who know, he has FU money. And I think he's gotten to a point where he just doesn't care. If he offends you because he says what he thinks, that's fine. But he's not saying things that are, overtly racist. He's not, calling yellow fever like President Trump did publicly. Oh, it's Chinese yellow fever. It's like, that's rude, right? That's insulting to an entire country. I don't think that Elon Musk does that. Now, when he called out George Soros, said he looked like Magneto and said he's just kind of an evil person, that's getting a little extreme, but, he's doing good. I like that he says, if saying what I want to say offends people and causes me to lose money, then so be it. I think he's being very careful. Yeah, he can buy countries. I really would like to see what he does with this power, because if you've noticed, his popularity and power over the past, let's just say 5 years, has gone absolutely parabolic. And if this man can do good and take his power, take his initiative, his drive, and his ability, this is really where I think he's crazy. Sorry, I read crazy from Raman. Here's where I think Elon Musk is wonderful. He has an ability to take people, motivate them, put the brilliant minds together in a room, and they build something. Elon Musk didn't build the rockets. He put together the engineers to build the rockets. He didn't build the Tesla. He had an idea, he sat down, he got amazing people in a room, got them all in the same vision, and he's now cranking out, great products. So I would love to see that continue to progress. And I love to see what he's going to do with Twitter. You guys heard his comments about turning Twitter into a bank, a financial portal? Oh, man. I'm telling you, Tom's forecast that Twitter's going to go do an IPO in 2025 or 2026. What year was that, Tom, that you said they're going to do an IPO? I agree. And if they can get to the point that Twitter is now a place where you and I bank with. We'll get nice rates of return. We've got safe deposits. There's no fractional reserve banking. Like all of a sudden it's like, okay, this could really change the whole face of the economy. And what if he gets so powerful that he says, hey, I'm turning on all the payment rails to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, whatever crypto you want to use. I have the back end to facilitate that. He makes his own exchange that's legit and safe. Like, holy cow. Now we're talking. So that's just, hypotheticals, but I love the fact that he's going for it. He has FU money and he does not care. Whereas, you look at somebody like Jeff Bezos, he's doing some stuff with his money, but he's buying a 500-foot yacht, probably doing mounds of drugs with all these hot, sexy chicks he's got around him and personal trainers and bodybuilders. Yeah, do better with your money, buddy. Do better with your money. Yeah, he got the right investors along with engineers, but now he doesn't even need the investors. What's funny is he's become so successful with his businesses. I don't know how many are there, but like SpaceX, multi-billion-dollar company. Tesla, multi-billion-dollar company. You got a couple others in there. PayPal, multi-billion-dollar company. It's like whatever he touches turns into a billion-dollar company. So let's just assume that you and I are all angel investors, and we've each got, let's say, $50 million sitting around, and Elon Musk says, hey, I'm looking for investors. I'm here. What is it? I got 50 mil for you, bud. Do it. Because I know you're going to make me more money. What did Pal say? I didn't watch it today, Rob. I was busy working on my article for Bar Chart today. My article for Bar Chart. You got the right investors. Yep. All right. I think my ice cube is almost melted here. I'm almost melted. I'm going to wrap things up for today. Monday-wise, you really don't have any, there's no news announcements and no real economic data. So I'm going to just skip all that part of the show and move on from there. So I just want to say cheers. I hope you guys did have the Boring Company. Yeah. Now, I don't know what the valuation of the Boring Company is. The Boring Company is really interesting. And it's a far-fetched idea, but you got these, these machines that act like sandworms from Dune, and they just dig out tunnels that go all around. And, we can't do it here in California because of the seismic plates, right? We have way too many fault lines in California, and God, I'm already claustrophobic. I can't freaking imagine being in a car 30, 40, 50 feet underground, and all of a sudden an earthquake happens and I'm stuck in a dark tunnel. I will drive on the surface, but what I would say is, I think maybe for shipping and distribution. So, for example, I live here in Southern California, and if I can get a tunnel that goes directly underneath I-5, where we have automated truckers, forget these lazy ass, I apologize, I know some of you guys might be truckers. I have seen so many truckers on the I-5 that they pull out from the slow lane and they do 50. And it's like 50 for 15 minutes so they can pass that next truck. That is so annoying. You are disrupting the flow of traffic. But if we can get a point where the underground is now used as like almost a high-speed rail system for trucking. And so those things are doing 800 miles an hour underneath there, and I've removed all major trucks from the road above. Now I can go faster. Maybe I can increase the speed limit. So anyway, just going on and on. Pals of the same old thing. Good. Yeah, I didn't watch that one today, unfortunately. All right, you guys are gonna get me go rant on and on and on. I mean, I'm in that mood today, but it's time to go. The weather out here sucks. I'm about to go have some go to a local brewery with my pup and have some beers. So I will see you guys on Monday. I hope you enjoyed. Keep those questions coming. So Arby, I got your one question on the way. Keep more coming. Of course, if you guys go to any of the YouTube videos, any of them, go ahead and put your comments down below. The video on Bitcoin that I did for bar chart, I don't have access to all the comments, but I will check that one out. So if you guys review that video, I'm curious what you think. I know some people think I'm smoking hopium. Others think that I might be lowballing here. But bottom line is, when you make a trade or have an idea for a trade and you can articulate why that trade is good or bad, and you put your money where your mouth is, then you have skin in the game. And at this point, I've got skin in the game with with Bitcoin, and we'll see what happens. I hope I'm right. In 2025, it'll be a good one. So anyway, have a fantastic weekend. Cheers, everybody. Hope you do something fun. I will see you all on Monday. Take care.